A series of interviews, one interview after another, after another, after another. What's she doing here?
She's having a wonderful farewell, and I think she's probably enjoying every minute of it, and frankly, she deserves it.
Have other Secretary of States done this in the past? We were trying to think this morning, or is this sort of a first, all these interviews and this very open?
Well, I don't think we've ever seen a Secretary of State have a farewell interview with the President of the United States sitting next to him or her on 60 Minutes. That is a first. So, yes, there are a lot of, I think this is basically unprecedented. The speech that she's giving tomorrow is very important at the Council on Foreign Relations on America's leadership in the world. And that, I think, is a more traditional way of saying farewell. It's a time to sort of sum up her views of where this country is going, where the world is going, and what role we should play. And she's long believed that we should have a more muscular role than perhaps even her successor will have. We'll wait and see.
David, it seems to me that the big shift here, there are a lot of people who'd like her to run for president, myself included, but the big shift, for a long time she said she wasn't running, she wouldn't run, she was just going to take it easy. But now when asked about it, she seems to say, well, we'll have to wait and see. That's a big change.
You're right. There's been a morphing that's been going on here, slight, subtle changes. I think the truth is she doesn't know. Everybody who knows her well tells me she hasn't made up her mind. She doesn't want this rest. I think there's going to be a question of her health that she has to consider, and at some point she'll have to come forward and people will want to know what her health records are if she decides to run. She's going to be under pressure to make a decision sooner rather than later. She can't wait, I think, more than a year or so because there are going to be so many other aspirants. But here's the deal. She starts off in an enormously popular position. As you well know, when Gallup takes the poll of the most admired woman in the world, and this is a U.S. poll, she has been #1 for 11 straight years. 11 straight years, that's remarkable. The best record of any woman on the Gallup polls, which stretches all the way back to 1948. So she's in a very powerful position, but then she has to weigh it against another proposition, and that is she has to get some sense of how well the Obama administration is going to perform this second term. If you think about it, since the Roosevelt-Truman years, we've had 5 occasions when one party has held the White House for 8 straight years. And in the next election, the out party has won 4 out of those 5. Only in one instance, when Ronald Reagan was succeeded by George H.W. Bush, did the in party win a second time. So that depends to some considerable extent on the performance. Does this economy come back? Does it remain anemic? What happens to jobs? That sort of thing. So I think the calculations here are not as simple as they may appear on the surface. She's got and a little more time would perhaps give more David, clarity to her path.
Is there anything from her record as Secretary of State that could come back to haunt her as a presidential candidate?
I don't think so. The Benghazi affair, I think, will long be forgotten unless there's some smoking gun we have no idea about. What will be chewed over, but a number of conservatives have now, like Britt Hume, has said her record as Secretary of State is much less impressive than people are supposing. But look at the public narrative. The public has basically concluded she did a very good job. Yes, she didn't have a lot of big triumph. She didn't get a Nobel Prize for some particular breakthrough in the Middle East. But she's had a very substantial record, and the public looks upon her. And the dignity with which she carried herself, the fact that she and President Obama did seem to go more from the team of rivals to the team of friends, all of that, I think, has stood her in good standing. And that I think her record as Secretary of State will be a strong plus, not a minus.
All right, David Gergen, nice to see you this morning.